guys, welcome back to the Island Girl Talks. I'm Santana the Alchemist, and this is episode 2. And I've titled it Healing in Real Life and the Work Behind the Glow. So I'm going to keep it short and snappy. As you can see, I'm in my holiday attire because I'm in the DR, Dominican Republic, which is the island. So it's only right that I record this episode here. So yeah, here it goes. Healing isn't always beautiful. It's not Instagrammable. It's gritty, spiritual, confronting, and ongoing. You're not pretending to be whole. You're choosing to keep showing up while becoming whole. Healing sounds beautiful until you're actually in it. People talk about growth, peace, and alignment, but they rarely talk about the cost, the breaking, the silence, and the surrender. This episode is about what healing has really looked like for me, not in theory, but in real life, through pain, parenting, business, isolation, and God. Society glorifies the healed woman aesthetics as soft life, peaceful energy, and growth. But real healing looks like crying in the shower, confronting your triggers, setting boundaries that make people uncomfortable. Healing can be lonely because it disrupts your comfort zone and relationships. People admire your strength, but they don't see the moments you begged God to carry you. They see the glow, but not the grief. They see the comeback, but not the private collapses that came before it. They don't see the triggers you had to pray through, the boundaries you had to enforce that made people uncomfortable. The days you've chosen silence, not because you want to be mysterious, but because you simply couldn't explain the weight you were carrying. Healing disrupts everything that once felt familiar. It changes your appetite, it changes your relationships, and it changes your identity. There are moments in healing that feel lonelier than the pain you were trying to heal from. Because once you start to truly heal, you outgrow things, environments, patterns, people, and even parts of yourself. Healing isn't holy, but it's also heavy. And if I'm honest, there were moments where I wondered if I was doing it wrong because it didn't feel good, because it didn't look graceful, because it didn't feel like this glowing, soft, healed woman everyone talks about. But God showed me that healing is not about appearances. It's about alignment. It's about coming back to your center. It's about trusting Him to rebuild you piece by piece, even when it's uncomfortable. Healing while hustling is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Because when you're the one people depend on, you don't always get to fall apart out loud. I've had days where I've got up to package orders with tears in my eyes, where I've done hair appointments while silently praying, God, please hold me together. Where I smiled on the media but turned my phone off right after because I couldn't take one more notification, one more message, or one more expectation. There's a weight that comes with being the strong one, the go-to girl, the alchemist. But healing asked me to slow down, and hustle don't like slowness. It told me you're falling behind, you're being lazy, you're inconsistent, you're going to lose momentum. But God said, you're not behind, you're healing, you're human, and I've got you, and that's all I needed. There's this guilt with pulling back. Because when you're running a business or a brand, people notice when you're not active. They start asking questions like, are you okay? You've disappeared. You're so quiet lately. But how do you explain that you're just trying to hold yourself together? How do you explain that healing is draining? That spiritual warfare is real? That you're doing deep emotional work, all while being a mother, a provider, and a visionary? Sometimes I wanted to scream, I'm not okay, but I don't have time to not be okay. And that's where the burnout came from. Not just physical exhaustion, but spiritual depletion, because I was pouring from an empty cup. That's when I knew something had to shift. I couldn't keep grinding through my healing. I couldn't keep serving from empty. So I gave myself permission to pause. I was forced to pull back, to be unavailable, to rest without guilt. Because healing isn't just about working through your traumas, it's about learning how to rest in your truth. And my truth is, I'm healing, I'm growing, I'm glowing, and I no longer have to hustle for my worth. I used to think stillness was lazy. Well, that's what I was taught to believe. Now I know it's where God does his deepest work. When I was forced to slow down, first when I injured my arm and then my leg, through burnout, emotional fatigue, I felt like I was falling behind. Everyone was building, posting, winning, and I was still rebuilding, resetting, resting, and listening. At first, it felt like punishment, like I had failed somehow. But slowly, I started to realize this stillness wasn't punishment. It was a reset, a divine pause, and a redirection. Sometimes God doesn't send signs, he sends silence, and in that silence, he realigns you. When I couldn't walk for weeks, I was forced to surrender. There was nothing I could do but be still. And in those moments, I cried out to God, not with fancy prayers, but with simple words like, help me, heal me, hold me, and he did just that. Not all at once, not dramatically, but gently, quietly, through whispers, reminders, and peace that made no sense. Stillness became my healing ground, not because everything was easy, but because I was finally listening to my body, to my spirit, to the truth I'd been too busy to hear. You're still worthy, even when you're not producing. You're still chosen, even when you feel forgotten. You're still called, even when you're quiet. That stillness gave me clarity. It reminded me of who I am without the noise, without the content, without the pressure, just me and God. I used to think healing was something you completed like a checkbook. But now I know it's something you walk through every day with grace and God. I've learned that healing is not a destination, it's a rhythm. Some days you feel light, clear, powerful. Other days you feel like you're starting over again. And that doesn't mean you're broken, it means you're becoming. Healing taught me to stop apologizing for my softness, to say no when my soul says not today, to forgive people who may never apologize, to stop seeking closure from people who were not meant to stay. The healed version of me isn't the loudest, she's the quietest, the clearest, the most connected to God. She listens before reacting, she doesn't chase what distracts her, she doesn't abandon herself to be chosen, and she finally knows rest is productive, joy is holy, and slowness doesn't mean stagnancy, it means alignment. I've also learned that healing doesn't require you to be perfect, but present, just present. You don't need to be the finished product to be used by God. He works in the middle, in the mess, in the process. So I've stopped rushing, I've stopped performing, I'm choosing to just be me and just be still, faithfully, fully, and softly. Healing is messy, it's sacred, it's slow, and if you're walking through it right now, you're not behind, you're not broken, you're just becoming. So don't rush it, don't compare it, don't hide from it. Let God meet you right where you are. To women healing in silence, holding it all together and still showing up, I see you, and you're doing better than you think. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be present. You don't have to have it all figured out, you just need to trust the next step. This is the Island Girl Talks, where healing is holy, softness is strength, and your story still matters. I'm Santana the Alchemist, still healing, still walking by faith, still choosing softness over silence, and still showing up. I hope y'all enjoyed that. Every time I read my journal, it just brings me back to center. Like if I feel down or I feel like I'm going back into a space where I feel like I'm not aligned, and I read these things, it just brings me back to center. So I hope these episodes does that for someone, because that's why I'm sharing. So yeah, until next episode.